the week. Let's go, everybody. Rams minus 7.5. I think they're going to demolish the G-Men. The lead story here should not be about Tyrod Taylor. Not at all. And I respect him. I think he's a solid backup quarterback, and I like the consistency in terms of play design, all of that stuff. Like, that's great. The thing, though, is on the other side of the football, the Giants are not prepared for what the Rams are going to throw at them. And look, this is going to be a game that I think will be won with the passing attack, not the rushing attack, even though Kyren Williams has been great. In fact, he's been number one among all qualified running backs in terms of success rate and EPA per rush. Sean McVay has been an absolute genius in terms of those outside runs with Williams and making that work. The thing, though, is one of the reasons why it's worked so well is because Williams has been facing a lot of light boxes. The Giants really don't do that. They stack it a little bit more than most teams. I believe it's the 8th lowest rate of light boxes. And so they're going to put additional guys on the line of scrimmage to try and contain the rushing attack. So that means it's going to be about Matt Stafford throwing it to Cooper Kupp, throwing it to Puka Nacua. And while we have seen Stafford have bad, putrid performances where he can throw multiple interceptions in key games, I don't think this is going to be one of them. Either the Giants are going to win this thing outright because of turnovers, because this Giants defense gets a bunch of takeaways, or Stafford's going to throw for 300, 350 yards to his two favorite receivers, and both of them are going to go nuts. And so I like alt spread here to Rams minus 7.5 in large part because this is going to be a high variance kind of a game. Rams are going to go nuts, or the Giants are going to keep this super duper close and nothing in between. I don't think you can really cut it down the middle here, Paul.
Ultimately, I'm going to be on the Ravens side here. I think the difference could be we've got a bunch of guys on the Dolphins with Q's next to their names. Now, I do think Miami, we've talked about this, I think even last week, like they tend to put a lot of people on the injury report, and I think they're just being super conservative. So I'm not going to overreact too much, but Tua, Mostert, Hill, Waddle all have Q's. 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line are questionable. So I'm not going to look too far into it, but I think there could be something there. And then the only one that's really a concern on the Ravens side is safety Kyle Hamilton. Now, he's been phenomenal. He had the 2 interceptions. He was all over the place defensively against the Niners. And now he's got some knee issues. That's not good, but I think there's more injury questions on the Miami side. So I'm going to go Ravens -3, a little bit of a revenge spot because of what happened last year. I don't think they got that sour taste out of their mouths.
It is funny that this is not a division game, but in some ways it feels like one because there is so much familiarity. And the fact that the Ravens just came off of playing the 49ers and then they're going to get a similarly built offense that they're going up against. And yeah, the Ravens have been put in a grinder lately in terms of all the great offenses that they've gone up against. But hey, look, they've risen to the top for a reason. They have been there and they've looked at these challenges straight into the eyes, and they've been very, very good as far as that's concerned. Now, not having their full complement of safeties, that does matter in a game like this because of how well they utilize them. So that's a big deal. My model doesn't necessarily like picking a side here. It has Baltimore -2.8. So when it was at 3.5, then probably backing the Dolphins would make a whole lot of sense. But now I'm kind of shying away from that idea. But there are lots of great props as far as this game is concerned that I definitely like. And what's fascinating to me in terms of analyzing what Lamar Jackson can do in this game, as far as looking at that side of the ball, is yes, this Dolphins defense has certainly gotten a lot better, and quarterbacks are afraid to throw in Jalen Ramsey's direction, and that all makes a ton of sense. And I wonder, too, that yes, Lamar Jackson is the front runner to be MVP for a reason, but the fact that the counting stats and the efficiency stats do not necessarily yell at you. They don't jump off the page to say, yes, Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I wonder if some point that catches up to him. And that maybe now is the time going up against a really feisty Dolphins defense that, yeah, they came off of beating the Cowboys. We can't say anymore that Miami doesn't do well against stiff competition. Like, that stigma's gone. Now they can go up against the Ravens and showcase once again what they're capable of. And I think also what matters here is you look at this Dolphins offense, like, yeah, it can slow down at times. You can disrupt the timing of Tua, but sometimes you can't. Like, I look at what the Ravens have done against quick passes, and they've been good, like ninth in terms of defensive success rate. They were also 13th against outside zone runs. Like, they're good, but they're not phenomenal. Just like when we look at Lamar Jackson's counting stats, they're good, but they're not phenomenal. And I wonder if some point there is some kind of weakness that we see in a contest like this one to where the Dolphins are able to exploit it and keep this game close.
My favorite prop of the week is Chris Olave over receiving yards. We've seen now in his last 8 healthy games, he's seen at least 8 targets. He's getting the opportunity. And last week, which feels like an eternity ago, it doesn't even seem like the Saints played the Rams point this season, let alone just last week. But whenever Olave returned from his ankle injury, they did release his prop at 63.5, and I thought that's far too low. But it's the same thing this week. It's only 66.5, and it's such a soft spot against this Bucs secondary that has struggled even to cover Trevor Lawrence fighting through an ankle injury and CJ Beathard when he came off the bench last week. Not only that, but the Bucs and Todd Bowles are blitzing at the league's third highest rate, and Chris Olave has 26% of the team's targets against the blitz. So it's a spot where I'm going right back to not only that prop, but also laddering it up over 100 yards because I do think it's a great environment for both sides of the ball.
The play I probably like more than anything else is the over 48. So they can run the ball, establish the run one more time, the Eagles can, and they'll be successful there. The passing attack should be fine. I think this will be a Devontae Smith game, by the way. But on the other side of the ball, I do think that Kyler Murray can be successful against this Eagles secondary, which has been a tad putrid at times, over the last several weeks. And if you look at, say, what the Eagles could do to contain Murray, it's about quick pressures, right? And taking him down and preventing him from getting outside the pocket and improvising, all that good stuff. But if you look at, say, how often he succumbs to quick pressures, it's only on 12.6% of his dropbacks. And that's not a terrible number given if you look at, say, Sam Howell, for instance, his quick pressure rate is 18%. So there is a significant difference there. And I do think that despite having some real respect for this Eagles front, I think Kyler Murray can do just enough with a quick game and his mobility to be able to get past that and sort of force this Eagles secondary to make plays. And I'm not sure they're going to. There are probably going to be some targets for the Cardinals who we haven't talked about much at all this year, who will probably step up big. And so I'm expecting a higher scoring game here, much higher than the 48 I'm seeing.